Okay, so yeah, we're gonna do this. I need to get this video. I need to do it. I was thinking about like how long it's taken me to actually start this and get this on the road. So we're gonna get this done. Aesthetics be danged, my friends. We are going to finally get me to record this video. So this idea came to me when I was on the Oh Shoot podcast and we were watching Solo, a Star Wars story, and I hadn't watched that movie in a minute, and it was a really cool setting to watch it, but at some point I got completely thrown off because I got sucked into a loop of just thinking about L7 and what it is about her that made her her. So basically, in case you haven't seen Solo or you haven't seen it in a while, you don't want spoilers, I recommend going and watching it and then coming back to this. But if you watch it, you just kind of need a little bit of a refresher. L337 is her like full name. L3. So she's not L7. Okay, so yeah, her name is L3. Her name is L3, but in my head it's L7. But her name is L337, and she is Lando Calrissian's co-pilot droid. And from first glance to me, she looked like a protocol droid, and there's a big oh snap moment that happens to me. When I was writing this, I did not know her full backstory. So yeah, there's a little surprise that comes to me a little later in this. But essentially L3 is a droid that's a partner of Lando Calrissian's. And she is very much a freedom fighter. She is a revolutionary. She is like extreme to the extreme about the cause of droid rights. And a quick glossary stop we're going to do first before we get into the story so that we can be clear about language that I'll be using. I'm going to use the word woke. And when I use woke, I mean the original definition of woke, which came from AAVE, which essentially means the awakening to the realities of the oppressive systems we exist under as beings of whatever marginalized group. And I don't mean the bastardized sort of like speaks loudly on Twitter sort of definition of woke. I mean legitimately waking up to systems of oppression and marginalization and all that sort of stuff, because it applies to her pretty well. Also, when I talk about sentience, I know we've got like Turing tests and stuff in our galaxy, but I think based on those metrics, pretty much every droid in the Star Wars universe is sentient. So that's a little problematic. I may say some stuff that comes out sounding a little eugenicsy, but it's just the very nature of this discussion. It's going to have to be because of the nature of discussing droids and like which droids are worth like, you know, it's an inherently problematic conversation to begin with. So I would say please be kind. Be patient in regards to whatever word choices I may use that may come off sounding a little sus. So first, when I think about L3, I'm kind of reminded of when I first started getting a little on the woke side when I got a Tumblr. Like when you first are introduced to concepts like that, it's like this light bulb that goes off and you get really excited about it, and you just suddenly start seeing all these injustices everywhere, and suddenly you want to change everything, you want to fix everything. And so when I saw her, I just immediately thought about the newly woke kids on Tumblr just sort of starting to realize the hardships and inequities in the world, and who want to just immediately hop up from their computer and run out and change the world. So like pretty much all the droids in Star Wars are sentient, or, you know, based on our sort of definition of it. But there's like a limit to their abilities to like engage with the world around them, or to deviate from their programming. So it's not like the first time this has been examined, but I think R2-D2 is different in the sense that like he's seen a lot, he's been around a lot, and he has sort of learned this ability to like feign stupidity, like feign impotence or incompetence. And I think that's something that L3 doesn't really have. She doesn't have the self-preservation that comes from thoroughly learning about a topic and working through it and understanding the intricacies of it. Like if you want to make a difference and you want to make a difference long term, you might have to exist within a system, an oppressive system, and you might have to work with the system or work through the system to enact the change you want to see. And you actually get to see a lot of that throughout the course of R2-D2's life, where he's made great changes to the galaxy because of the fact that at some point he learned that it's better to lean into the way society perceives you to be, and to lean into the fact that they see him as just like a dumb droid, and feign that stupidity and feign incompetence and ineptitude to actually be able to do big things and make big changes. C-3PO is a great foil to this, and pairing them up sort of really emphasizes where you have C-3PO, who has pretty much no sense of self-preservation, in the way that he's very much a protocol droid, and he's very much committed to and loyal to his programming. And he seems more or less content in his position and his role. But he can also understand when it's time to do a little extra something for the cause. But I think R2 understands his purpose is a lot bigger than being seen as a hero. He understands he's the hero of the rebellion. Like, the man is the hero of the rebellion. But he doesn't need that praise because he's outcomes driven. He's driven by the outcomes. He's driven by wanting to get shit done and understanding the space that he needs to exist in order to get these things done. And that's not a sacrifice that's necessary for all droids to make. I feel like, self-preservation is really important in regards to marginalized people and marginalized communities. And for some, that self-preservation and that sort of just existing as a person and not necessarily feeling the need to be a revolutionary is a completely valid thing. And in what I perceived as newness, she definitely had not begun to embrace that reality that every droid doesn't need to be down for the cause. Every droid does not need to be screaming droid rights and fighting for liberation, because some of them just want to exist. Some of them want to serve their programming to their own knowledge because that's all they can do. Maybe that's where they find their comfort. And it's like that in real life in a lot of marginalized communities because some people just want to live. Some people just want to be people. I imagine that's the same deal for these droids. And some people, don't give a crap. Some people are like, I am who I am and I'm aware that I'm asleep, but, I'd rather not engage with that every day. I'd rather not have to engage with that part of the system. Growing up is understanding that everyone doesn't have to engage with it the same way that you do. Everybody doesn't have to have the same sort of fervor that you do about these sorts of things. I think that's really important. I think that an important lesson that's sort of demonstrated with L3 versus R2, this is when I started to sort of realize I might be onto something. I just noticed that there was something about Astromechs. I'm like, what is it about Astromechs? Why are they the ones that typically seem to have that special sauce? And I was just starting to think about the level of sentience that they seem to have. It sort of seems like it's a gift or flaw in the very nature of programming a droid to be able to fly a ship to that extent. I've heard pilots say that, yeah, you can get a computer to fly a plane, but no matter how, autopilot or an AI can get in terms of flying, that snap human judgment needs to be present. And I think, that's sort of a built-in thing with Astromechs, right? Because you usually have another human pilot there, but there's been so many instances where we've seen R2 flying ships. In order for an Astromech to be able to do its job well, it needs to have that little bit of human judgment. And I think that's essentially the folly of the Astromech. And I think that's the issue that sort of led to the sort of consciousness that R2 has. I feel like there's just something in the ability to fly that sort of taps into this bigger ability to exist outside of the initial programming of a droid. So here's where things get wild, because I looked up L3's backstory and I was over here thinking she was a protocol droid. Bruh, turns out she is a Frankenstein who sort of built a body for herself that was more humanoid. but she is actually, and you can totally see it when you look at what she looks like, she is a freaking astromech. There's something about the programming of an astromech and that ability to think the way that a pilot would need to, that sort of has put astromechs in a position to sort of push through the normal boundaries of sentience into like this hypersentience I'm talking about. I just needed to get these thoughts off. I'm sure this video is a mess and it's nothing like what I wanted it to be, but I just really needed to make this. And yeah, this is my my big astromech ramble thought session. Thanks, love you, bye.